things that are insane. One is the targeting of migrant workers, not cartel members, not gang members, not drug dealers, just construction workers showing up in construction sites and raiding them, gardeners.
Yeah.
Like, really?
What's going on, you guys? Is Joe Rogan finally coming to his senses? He's calling out all of the things going on during the presidency, during Donald Trump's term, but not Donald Trump. Let's get into it.
Now, you might hear that and think, oh, okay, good for Joe Rogan. But one progressive, political, engaged celebrity isn't buying it. While drawing praise from some, Joe Rogan's criticism of the Trump administration is triggering eye rolls from others. In response to an account sharing that video, Mark Ruffalo posted, "Dear Joe Rogan, it's a little late now to pretend like Project 2025 didn't exist and wasn't the playbook all along. You are either not that smart or not that dumb. It's hard to tell at this point." And while Project 2025 didn't explicitly call for rounding up day laborers and construction workers, it did call for expedited removals, which many warned would violate due process, and called for the canceling of many different legal statuses to make lawful residents eligible for deportation. From there, many argue that this was the inevitable result. Calling for an increased level of deportations would result in things like this. But Cenk, what do you make of Ruffalo's response here? Is this right? Is this the right tone? How should he respond to somebody like Rogan criticizing the Trump administration?
Well, we're going to ask you guys, but I'm going to taint the jury pool here by telling you my opinion in a second. Although it doesn't usually move the poll much. You guys have a strong independent voice, which I love. So we're asking you two different polls. One's in the live chat on YouTube as we do the show live 6 to 8 p.m. As we do every day, Monday through Friday. Anyways, when Rogan turns against Trump's immigration policy, we should A, commend him for turning around, B, criticize him for getting it wrong, C, neither. And then on our website, this is why I'm really interested in TYT.com, when Joe Rogan turns on Trump on any given issue, it's A, okay, by the way, let's look at, on the live chat, great, okay, good. Over, what is that, 63% or so? 63% saying commend him for turning around. Anyways.
And while Cenk Uygur is taking the high road, while he is giving Joe, a little bit of grace, I am going to be the voice, even though we may have different voices, I'm not here to say that I disagree with Cenk Uygur whatsoever. I do think that it is important to say, hey, look, I knew what was gonna happen. I knew what he was saying. I knew what was going on. I was wrong, right? I haven't heard Joe Rogan take his own accountability for saying I was wrong about Trump, right? I haven't heard him say that. I don't even really think I've heard other people like Jimmy Dore say it in the space, even though they were very, very much against just different things going on, and now they're very silent. They're not really talking up again. They're not saying I was wrong about Trump.
On the website, what should we do? A, great that he's telling his audience Trump is wrong. B, useless. We already had the election. C, not going to affect anything because he'll go back to supporting MAGA in the next election. So curious what you guys think about that on TYT.com. Okay, so what do I think? I like Mark Ruffalo a lot. I think he's one of the best celebrities. He uses his name recognition for good 98% of the time. I mean, as far as I can tell, really 100% of the time. And he's one of the most progressive, one of the most down to earth, cares about the average American, average human being. That's all a lead up to me saying I totally disagree. So what are we yelling at the guy for? He's coming to our side. Well, how does that help? So, all right, Jordan, back to you.
No, I'm kind of in alignment with you on this, and it feels weird because, like you're saying, Ruffalo, I'm just in agreement with almost 100% of the time, and this, I think, probably not the best time to take a shot at Rogan. I think his audience is massive. We acknowledge that it is largely influential, and or his show is influential, and he's saying something that maybe they won't hear anywhere else.
You cannot be tolerant of the intolerant. We have it to where I believe, right, that Trump is intolerant of certain people. I believe that people that are with Trump are intolerant of certain people. They will always make these different excuses, but they are intolerant. I cannot be tolerant of that. And as far as I know, Joe Rogan has not publicly said that he condemns Trump. He is not out here saying anything about necessarily Trump is bad. I didn't mean to vote for him. It's not even clear yet how he feels about it. Just because, he said one thing, I am not going to say, let me open up my arms to Joe Rogan, who is still supporting, someone who is intolerant or stands for intolerant beliefs.
That said, I understand why people would criticize him in the first place. And for such a large and influential program, he very rarely does preliminary or prep research. And that's where you see conspiracy theorists, misinformation peddlers, or outright bigots come on the show and start to sow seeds of bigotry, hate, xenophobia, whatever. As I'd say independent or even progressive watchdog organizations have pointed out over the years, that show has been a breeding ground for a lot of things that have negative societal impacts. And people are often free to say whatever they want unchecked. And for somebody in his role, I would argue there's a responsibility to at least read up on what you're going to talk about. So as he endorsed Trump in the run up to the 2024 election, I think when you have a show that big, you can't just chalk it up to like, oh, I'm just having conversations. I'm just listening. No, you're like the biggest show on the planet. Like it doesn't really work that way. Like you have a responsibility to think through what you're going to say, who you're going to endorse, the impact of that. But then I go back to that said, look, he's criticizing Trump. Very few people are doing that. Very few people are breaking with Trump on these types of things. And the ones that do are being met with criticism from within their own ranks. So it is interesting to see who's willing to speak out and who isn't. I'm, slightly gonna diverge from Mark Ruffalo just on this one issue. What do you think?
Yeah, and look, it's having an effect. Of course, business interests are having a larger effect. But Donald Trump in his speech the other day, we're gonna cover it on a different story later in the show, talked about how, we might have to make an exception for farm workers and hotel and leisure industry, because a lot of people are complaining that we're just taking people from their jobs and stuff. So that's largely those industries that are greasing him up, et cetera. But there's a little bit of him sensing the independent podcasters and broadcasters like Rogan are beginning to leave the building, right? A lot of.
And look, I'm going to say it one more time. I do not, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, Cenk, how could you say this? Cenk Uygur, oh, down with Cenk Uygur. I don't. But I guarantee you, if you put Joe Rogan in, in his little high chair, in his little podcast setup, and you ask him, Joe Rogan, do you condemn Donald Trump, right? You can look at the article right here, the headline, Joe Rogan for not condemning Trump sooner. So Cenk Uygur, I'm going to sit here and I would just say, maybe that he is doing some wishful thinking here, right? To where, which is, it serves one purpose, right? But I think that you have to look at the reality. If you put Joe Rogan in a chair right now and you say, do you condemn Trump? He would say no, right? So I still can't give nobody the benefit of the doubt. I can't give anybody the benefit of the doubt.
A lot of them are saying the same thing, which is where the American people are, which is, hey, you want to round up undocumented criminals? No problem. You want to close the border? No problem. In fact, good, okay? But you start rounding up regular people who've been here 10, 15 years who are going to their job, it's cruel and we don't like it. We don't want it. So they're reconsidering it. Now, of course, that's led to a different MAGA rebellion against that idea to Trump. But look at this, Charlie Kirk and the right-wingers are saying, no, arrest them wherever they are. But Rogan and the independent podcasters are saying, no, don't do that. Don't do that. So we have a significant schism, not just from Trump, but from Trump in two different directions and against one another. So A, that diversity of thought is great. B, the fact that the Rogans agree with us instead of the Charlie Kirks and the Donald Trumps is fantastic. And so, Jordan, do I agree with you that, I wish that Rogan had, challenged Trump more, done more homework on it, of course, right? But let's also be fair and recognize that the Democrats didn't even try to win their votes. Kamala Harris wouldn't go on any of those shows. And I'm
gonna stop it right there. I agree with Cenk Uygur in that point almost like wholeheartedly. I can see where other people would disagree, but look, the Democratic Party, they didn't take it serious. They didn't take this run serious whatsoever. How could somebody like Donald Trump get put in office against a supported candidate? That's not based off of like celebrity, just celebrity culture. That's not based off of these empty promises. That's not what I want to, put my neck out for, right? I get it that, yeah, it's the best thing that we had to go against Trump, right? But I mean, what does that mean for the state of the Democratic Party? Like, why don't we have someone who actually cares about workers? Why do we have, a candidate who, although I really love Kamala's personality, I think that we could have had a candidate having more ground in policies. And I think that it's just obvious that we haven't had a candidate in a while that is based off of policy on either side for the American people.